Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first long-awaited off-season episode of Ball Don't Lie. Joining me here is Spencer Ball and our producer Tyler Perrone in the Black Sabbath T-shirt. And we're joining you here in late July, perhaps early August, whenever this goes up. We just kind of talk about what's going on in the sports world as we enjoy summer vacation. And without further ado, welcome to Ball Don't Lie, Spencer. What are we talking about today?
Well, starting it off, I think, the NBA Finals, it was a little while ago, but the NBA offseason is in full effect. So we'll talk a little bit about the finals, frankly, because they weren't that exciting. And then we'll move on to the offseason, which I think has been more promising, at least for two of y'all's teams. The Hornets are a little dormant, but the new head coaching era has some promise. But first on the finals, of course, the Celtics took down the Mavericks. Watching the Mavericks playoff run, I think, was pretty enjoyable. But the Celtics just seemed like far and away the best team.
Yeah, I just don't. Especially with they were without Kristaps Porzingis for a large portion of the run too, and it just looked so effortless. So there's just not much you can do there. And it's very funny to see people talk about, oh, the Eastern Conference is weak, and then one of the most dominant NBA champions of this century, went through that East, and it's very interesting. And then, like you said, though, the Hornets offseason, dormant, but more promising than previous ones, I think. The veteran signings of Taj Gibson and Seth Curry, those kind of signings just didn't happen in the last regime. And we won't
I,
spend a
I
lot
would
of time on
say
the Hornets.
just not as star-studded as like you
Oh,
being a
yeah.
Knicks fan, Tyler being a Sixers fan.
Yeah.
Hey, the Hornets were never going to land any of those players. But I'm not disagreeing with them, but it's a small market team, but they're making good progress, I think.
Yeah.
But
And,
we can move
if
on to
we,
the exciting stuff.
yeah, starting out with Mikal Bridges joining his former college teammates in Madison Square Garden, going from Brooklyn to the Mecca. A big blockbuster trade between the Nets and the Knicks. And I think it's a good deal for both teams because the Knicks get a huge complimentary piece who can be, we've seen him play in deep playoff runs with the Phoenix Suns. And, the Nets finally get to commit to a hard rebuild. They've been kind of chasing success because they had to since the Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett trade. And ever since, that was such a disastrous domino that affected them for almost an entire decade. And now they're finally picking up the pieces in that and saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. No more silly business.
Well,
But
barring, Katie's big toe, they were close to a title there somehow.
yeah, I,
I mean, they
it's,
had a really good team, but since then they were never able to really like capture the full success and talent of their last big three. So I agree with you. I think it's a huge move for both teams, but I think the Nets really they finally get what they want.
exactly. And they'll have a high pick next year. And, it's a much better draft class than this previous one. And then, going back to the Knicks, of course, they re-signed OG Anunoby to a big 5-year deal. And perhaps their biggest move of the entire offseason was someone who's already on the team is Jalen Brunson took a massive pay cut. Well, not really pay cut. He just took the max this summer compared to what he could have taken next summer, which was exponentially more to try and keep the Knicks under that second apron. Trying to understand NBA cap space and contracts is like trying to get a degree in theoretical physics. But we
You
try
need a
our best
business
here.
to understand it now. The layman, I mean, what are we simple minded hoop watchers supposed to do?
Well, CJ McCollum and Grant Williams did horrible things in that collective bargaining agreement. But you know, Brunson taking that allows the Knicks a lot of flexibility when it comes to extending guys like Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, perhaps getting some more depth players. Other moves for the Knicks, they lost Isaiah Hartenstein. That's going to be a big loss for them. That's one of the things with the new CBA. They didn't get access to the full bird rights because they had only had him for 2 years, and because of that, they weren't able to pay him the amount that the Thunder had or the Thunder were, and so they lost out on him, which was that's very unfortunate in terms of a team that is so built on physicality and controlling the glass. But the Knicks had a great offseason, and so did the 76ers, which Tyler's going to talk about.
Well, before I even get to the Sixers, another thing about the Thunder that I feel like people have already forgotten is they got Alex Caruso.
Bang.
And one of
That's
the
I
worst
was
trade
about to
ever.
come to that.
The worst
Alex Caruso for
trade
Josh
ever.
Giddey straight up is crazy.
Blow up the Chicago Bulls.
The Bulls front office, like, what happened? I
It's
saw
KOT
it's a cymbal monkey, just like banging cymbals
KOT4Q
together.
is tweaking. It's been crazy. But yeah, I think that a lot of the contenders, especially the ones in the East, like we're going to talk about specifically the Knicks and Sixers, have made a lot of big, steps up. Sixers re-signed Maxey. Resigns. I mean,
Had to,
there's been a
yeah.
lot of big re-signings. We also saw the Cavs do that with D Mitch. Let's see. Got Drummond back, got Eric Gordon, got Andre Drummond. I'm working up to the big one. It's okay.
I was about to say the craziest possible place to start. Andre
Got
Drummond.
got Andre Drummond. We got Kelly Oubre back. Drafted Jared McCain. Pretty good. Looks very good in Summer League. And the crown jewel of it all, we got Podcast P on the 76ers.
There's a lot of nicknames you could have gone with there. I was interested to see which one.
No, the most respectable, business savvy one I went with. So.
Brandon Miller's goat, Paul George.
True. I see a lot of, I really like Paul George. I still do really like Paul George. It's sad how that tandem ended in LA. They really just never got to play to their full potential. I mean, Kawhi and Paul George, two of my favorite players growing up. And, the big takeaway, I think, from the 76ers is the same big takeaway that you have with the Knicks offseason. Bubble wrap the entire team. You're going to win in the regular season, but the downfall for both those teams in the playoffs in recent years has been injury. And the 76ers, far, much more so, Paul George, well-documented. Joel Embiid, well-documented injury history. And, I'm seeing the argument from a lot of 76ers fans, a lot of NBA media people, that we're going to see a passing of the torch here from Embiid to Maxey as kind of the face of the 76ers. And, Maxey's outstanding, and they just had to re-sign him.
I also forgot about the Caleb Martin signing, which I think is really sneaky. And as, someone who shares my fandom custody for the Heat and Sixers, I was upset but not, because I'm happy he went to one of my teams. But yeah, I think that it's hard to tell who really has the edge between the Knicks and the Sixers, because like you said, with the streaky sort of injury things, you get, Paul George, who at his best is top 15 in the league, top 10 maybe. That might be a stretch, but he may not play all the time. But whereas the Knicks, you get an absolute Iron Man who is great for Tibbs's system in Bridges. So yeah, I'm trying to think of any stuff in the Western Conference. Russ just went to the Nuggets.
Oh, I
DeMar
thought you were
DeRozan.
Yeah,
True.
Star of the Not Like Us music video, D-Rose. I one of my favorite, my actual, him and Carmelo Anthony, top A1A, 1B favorite players.
Bucket getters.
I mean, I've spent hours of my life watching DeMar DeRozan mid-range footwork compilations.
Beautiful.
It shows in your game, dude.
It's going to be so special, I think, to watch that Sacramento offense. And then you're going to be like, what's stopping this team from being one of the best teams in the West? And then you're going to watch
them play defense.
And then it's playing defense. Yep.
And so, what?
It's the zone.
And winning games 150 to 149 is going to be the coolest thing ever when they hit that beam.
Yeah, and reality will strike in the playoffs, but I'm glad Sacramento's doing this. That fan base has been so starved for any kind of fun. And the people who are, really kind of railing against that move, I just don't think they really get it, right? Like the Kings last year or 2 years ago made the playoffs for the first time since 2002 or something like that. And so
since before I was born.
The Hornets of the West, if you will. I know they're pain, but it's across. They're closer to another ocean.
You finally get a taste of that success. You don't just immediately go, okay, so people say we can't win a title, so we just have to blow it all up again. I think we're seeing a turn from the oh, it didn't immediately work. We have to blow it up culture of the NBA. Because I mean, people thought the Bucks should blow it up because they didn't win the finals their first year with Damian Lillard when half their team was dead. And I support that. I think especially with the Bucks, they have to do that. I think did they lose a couple people in free agency? The NBA app is in alphabetical order and not. Let's see. They lost Malik Beasley, which is actually addition by subtraction. We're hearing.
Yeah, I think that the Eastern Conference is it's very tiered now. I think there's like a clear tier one of Boston, Knicks, and Philly, 100%.
I think just Boston.
I see. I was gonna say Boston,
yeah,
Knicks 76ers, Bucks, Magic, Cleveland, and then everybody else. I mean, those are.
I think the Pacers are really good, but
that's
also
true.
I think the Knicks and the Sixers have what it takes to compete with Boston. I think a healthy Knicks team would have gave the Celtics much more of a shot than the Mavericks did in the finals, 100%.
And it's funny because the Knicks and the 76ers are approaching it in pretty different ways. 76ers are going for like the star-studded, we're going to go bucket for bucket in crunch time with our big-time players. And the Knicks are going in more of a way of the classic, the way the New York Knicks have always played basketball. We're going to beat you with iron. Yeah, the power of friendship, and we're going to beat you with an iron if you come anywhere near the rim. And you have, I mean, the two best wing defenders in the entire NBA playing next to each other to guard Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, or you have Mitchell Robinson down low controlling the glass. The key, everyone's going to say, you got to keep Brunson healthy. Obviously, that completely destroyed the season. You got to keep Anunoby healthy. The real X factor is Julius Randle. I mean, he was so missed because of his ability to play the 5 in small ball lineups, but also just be a complete mismatch. Often, your traditional power forward just cannot guard the way he plays. And the way he was playing last season before he got hurt, he cut down on the bad threes, and he was just using his strength and driving down low and doing exactly what you need to do in the playoffs against a team like Boston, who's going to guard the perimeter really well. So, I don't know.
Well, I think they can compete with Boston, 100%. I think they can.
I just don't know how to react to a Knicks team with actual expectations. One last thing in the East, and really,
I was going to say there's a pretty big thing in the West I want to talk about. So
the Orlando Magic had a really great offseason. I mean, they re-signed
KCP.
Franz Wagner to that rookie
Wagner,
extension.
but we'll count it.
Both Wagners. They re-signed both of them. Same time.
They got Jonathan Isaac on that extension. He's been a really good player for them since he came back from being injured for like 2 straight years.
He got a ton of money for playing like 4 games.
Yeah, the KCP signing is huge for them. I mean, that one was really big, and something that was really big for them too. I think not signing Klay Thompson. I saw them linked to him, and I was like, "Don't do it." I mean, I don't dislike Klay, but that just would have been a gross misallocation. It took a bit.
I don't think that they're in the place to have that kind of gamble, whereas I think the Mavericks are. Which
exactly.
In case you haven't heard the news, the Dallas Mavericks got Klay Thompson. Golden State blew up the Splash Brothers. Also sent KCP to the Spurs for a bag of chips.
Or CP3.
What did I say?
KCP, who?
Oh,
the Nuggets,
we were talking about the Magic. CP3.
We sent. Also left him.
D's and P's just.
Yeah, they're just going everywhere. Yeah, they sent Chris Paul to the Spurs. It'll be cool to see him throw lobs to Wemby. That's kind of the storyline there.
Great trade for the Spurs. You bring in a veteran guy for your super young team. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the NBA just as a whole got a lot better this offseason. And then, as we move from a sport that's kind of in the offseason right now, it's going to be a long road back to NBA basketball. We're going to something completely in season. Major League Baseball. Been a weird year. I mean, offense.
That's one way to put it.
It's been a great year.
It's been a great year for one person. offense cratering, a litany of major injuries to stars, certain moves not working out. So I mean, I was just going to kind of go through some stuff. Wow, the NL, starting with the National League. What in the world is happening here with just so few teams over 500? And then, I mean, you got teams that were well poised to make a leap, like the Cubs and the Reds faltering.
Oh, Spencer.
The
No.
I can explain that one whenever y'all got time. Yeah.
The Giants, spending big in the offseason, again, trying to, build off that 2021 season where they won like 105 games.
Yeah, they stink.
And they're 5 games under 500. But then you have storylines like the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are looking to make the postseason for the first time since 2014. The New York Mets have surged after a tough start and are really closing in on the first wild card. The Washington Nationals playing 500 baseball after being horrific. There's one team I omitted. We'll talk about them later. But Spencer, go on about the Cubs.
So just before the All-Star break, I believe the Cubs were leading the league, and they've blown 20 games having a lead in the 7th inning or later. They've had, as of this is before the All-Star break, they've blown 18 saves. 18. Absurd. It's absurd.
Albert Alzolay.
Hey, he was great last year, and I think he's all the way down in the Arizona League now. That's lower than single A, if you weren't aware. That's horrid. But the offense, it seems like one or two guys are on and everyone else is off. Right now, Miles Mastrobuoni is our best hitter. I think me and JP have a shot at coming out of the middle reliever, and Tyler, you could start in the field. It's sad. But the thing is, this is a team whose starting pitching has really been phenomenal all year long. Shota Imanaga has been fantastic, one of the best NL rookies. Justin Steele has thrown, prior to his last start, he wasn't great. But before then, he's thrown 7 straight quality starts and has 2 wins to show for it because the offense just can't score. It's just horrible. And now our GM came out today and we're going to look to build for the future because we have a great farm system. I'm like, where are those guys now? What are we waiting for? We're 9 games back in the NL Central. This is a division. I think the team has enough talent to win, but, it seems like we just don't want it that bad. And I'm like, we paid $40 million for a new manager to sit there and in the post-game interviews be like, you can't win a game when the bullpen blows a lead. I'm like, why don't you sit down with the GM and throw everything at Mason Miller? Do something. We're just going to sit there and lose to the Cardinals.
There are a lot of relievers on the market. I mean, the Cubs keeping, a pulse on them has been really interesting because a lot of their big money guys just have not produced for them offensively. Dansby Swanson.
Michael Busch has been our best hitter. Dansby Swanson and Cody Bellinger have not been great this year at all.
Cody Bellinger has been dealing with some injuries. He's barely above league average. The power numbers are down for him. Seiya Suzuki has been good after a strong season last year. Ian Happ has been solid.
He's been great since the All-Star break. But
you get the guys like Nico Horner, Christopher Morel, Pete Crow-Armstrong, who's supposed to be a big guy, Patrick Wisdom. It's just brutal, right? I mean, for Swanson, it's just what happened to the power? Even in his worst years with Atlanta, he was striking out a lot, but he was still hitting the long ball, going the other way, hitting doubles. I mean, his slugging right now is 343, which is the lowest of his entire career, a 627 OPS, which is, just patently brutal.
Bad for a guy you're giving $200 million to.
Exactly. And then, you flip the switch to the pitching. Like you said, it's been awesome. Imanaga under a 3 ERA. You didn't mention Jameson Tyone with a 3.10 ERA.
He's been excellent. Yeah.
Javier Assad with a 3.27. Kyle Hendricks, bless his heart.
I can't say Assad's nickname on this show, but the A-man shoves, woo, gets me fired up. Held the Brewers to 1 run today, baby.
And something that really kind of speaks, I think, to the bullpen struggle. So many guys are on the IL right now. I mean, Jordan Wicks, Luke Little, Hayden Wisniewski, Keegan Thompson, Colton Brewer, Yency Almonte.
Well, Colton Brewer
Really,
punched a phone,
yeah, that did happen.
which at least somebody cares. Jeez.
And the story of the Cubs is very similar to a team I omitted earlier talking about the National League, the Atlanta Braves. I mean, the elephant in the room is just they have been miserable to watch. I'm wearing a shirt from a season where the Braves caught fire and won over 100 games and chased down the Mets from 10.5 back or whatever to win the NL East. And right now the Braves are only 8.5 out. They're leading the wild card race, but it's such. I mean, the vibes have been off on this team since the start. Opening day, Sean Murphy hurts his oblique, is out for 2 months in like the 6th inning of the first game. And then Spencer Strider goes, Tommy John within like the first couple of weeks. And even then, Atlanta was kind of, they were really kind of playing well. They were, some guys were struggling, but everybody was struggling offensively. And it was like, okay, they'll get going. They were 19-6 going into a West Coast road trip. Since then, they are 35-38. This is bordering on 80 games of just mediocre baseball. And the crux of it is incredibly easy to look at. They're just not hitting. In a year where not a lot of people are hitting home runs, the team that is built to mash the ball is also not hitting home runs. Matt Olson, Major League Baseball's home run leader last season, has only 13, which really isn't that terrible. But his slugging is .392. For reference, his on base last season was .390. He's having the worst season in his career. He's well below league average. He has an OPS of .692. Ozzie Albies just broke his wrist and is out for 8 weeks, which, the team can't hit because they can't stay healthy. Ozzie Albies broke his wrist. Ronald Acuna Jr. tore his ACL. Sean Murphy was out for 2 months with his oblique injury. Austin Riley was out for a month. Michael Harris II has been out for nearly over a month with his hamstring injury. The hits just keep coming. Max Fried just went on the IL.
I was about to say Max Fried, yeah.
With elbow neurosis, which is an injury that 4 guys have had only in the last 2 years, and the recovery times are wildly different. One guy has been trying to come back from it for almost an entire year at this point. It's just been, really horrific to watch. Jared Kelenic, bless his heart, the guy wasn't even supposed to be an everyday player, has become the leadoff hitter for this team and has played very admirably. Austin Riley bounced back from a horrid start, and then he got hurt, and he has become the second best hitter on this team. The only player performing like they did last year, Marcell Ozuna. It's just
Ozuna for the Braves.
Yeah, I just want to,
getting the cover off the ball.
there are so many people that are qualified hitters in Major League Baseball this year, and none of them are worse than Orlando Arcia, who is batting .212, which isn't really that terrible in modern Major League Baseball. However, his slugging is .331 for an OPS of .578. That is the worst among qualified hitters, and he's starting every day because he has to, especially with Ozzie Albies just breaking his wrist. And then, today the Braves pick up Whit Merrifield, who was cut by the Phillies, and they're like, okay, we'll have him as depth just in case. He almost broke something in his finger during warm-ups today. He's fine. He's day to day, but that was just awful. And the thing that's kept them afloat, you're hearing all these stats about how terrible they are. They're a bottom 3 offense in the same conversation as the Miami Marlins and the Chicago White Sox. The thing that's kept them afloat, like the Cubs, the pitching. Chris Sale has pitched like a Cy Young candidate. He's 13-3, a 13-3 record with a .270 ERA, with over 140 strikeouts. And he is, right now in the top 3 for NL Cy Young voting. Max Fried was pitching really well before that injury. Charlie Morton, who was supposed to be kind of your 5th starter, who's 40 years old, has an under 4 ERA and has really kind of gotten the strikeout gene back. Ronaldo Lopez a reformed bullpen guy turned into a starter who has a sub-2 ERA. And you call up a young guy in Spencer Schwellenbach because of all these injuries, and he's pitched really well. He's really kind of come through.
Spencers do you guys have?
Yeah, a lot.
We should sign you.
But unlike the Cubs, the bullpen has been ridiculously good for Atlanta. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 relievers with an ERA either right at 3.0 or below. And the ones that are above that are, low leverage relief guys like Aaron Bummer. They have been winning games 1-0, 2-1. And if the opponent scores more than 3 runs, the Braves are like 4-36. It's horrific to watch.
Hey, the Cubs had a game-winning walk to win 2-1 yesterday.
I mean, that is all undercut.
I got something to bring up. The Braves are a miserable team, but I feel like it's time to pass it along to our third.
Oh yeah.
Our third guy. We've been dwelling in the depths for too long. Both of our teams are struggling, might be an understatement. But Tyler, the Phillies. Let me just check my sources. The Phillies have the best record in baseball at 63-37 through 100 games. Those guys are good.
The Phillies are the best team in baseball. And I thought I could say that last year, and then getting knocked out by the D-backs come playoff time, I felt really bad about it. But, and I say this every year because I'm a delusional Philadelphia fan, but I think this year's the year until we get knocked out by the Braves in the wild card. But yeah, everyone that you would expect to perform has been performing. Our multiple million-dollar men like Harper and Trey Turner have been living up and even exceeding their contracts. We had questions last year about Trey Turner when he was getting back from injury, if he'd actually perform. He has been. We know that to be true. Some real surprises through the first 50 games. Ranger Suarez was the ERA leader for the MLB.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Seems his back injury hasn't been the best, but still sub-4 ERA. Super sick.
But yeah, and come the All-Star break, how many All-Stars did we have? 9? 8? Yeah.
Is it tied for the most on a team? Was that right?
I think so.
I either tied or broke it.
It's a lot.
Insane.
However, only one of those teams have ever won the World Series with 8 All-Stars.
Yeah.
So
I don't need to hear that. I don't want us to Atlanta Hawks ourselves, but
the Phillies today actually overtook the Dodgers as the betting favorite to win the World Series. It's the first day in this year that the Dodgers weren't the favorite. The Dodgers, it's weird to say they're disappointing. I mean, they're 19 games or 500, but they've had a lot of injuries, and Philadelphia has just, really kind of established themselves as the class of the NL.
Philadelphia's also the best pitching team in baseball?
Well, the Braves
probably the best rotation.
Yeah. Chris Sanchez is a stud all of a sudden, pitched a shutout, but yeah, the Dodgers.
Zach Wheeler, consistency.
The Dodgers are really kind of the 76ers of baseball right now, in that they have these great off seasons. They bring in the right people, and then they just get hurt, and then their star gets hurt.
They bring in the right people. They brought in everyone. They spent $1 billion this offseason.
And they're still good. They're still very good. They literally
sent people across the world to get the right guys.
They did DFA James Paxton today, which was interesting because he's been pretty good for them. So I think that's a quality starting pitcher that someone could go pick up. The rest of the National League just isn't worth talking about, truthfully. And we got a couple minutes here left. We're just going to go through the American League because it's a lot more of the same. Lots of mediocrity this season.
The O's look great.
The Orioles are great.
They lead the American out of nowhere.
They've been weird. They've been really hot and cold.
They linger.
Yeah, they linger. And then switching gears to the American League, the Orioles lead the East by 1.5 games over the Yankees, who started off really hot and then kind of went through some injuries, and the bottom of their lineup is just putrid. I mean, Soto and Judge are the 2 best hitters in baseball, and then the 3rd best hitter on the Yankees is 156. They lost Stanton, who looked like he was really kind of returning to form, which has really been the catalyst towards all their problems. The Red Sox have played pretty well. The Tampa Bay Rays.
Above expected for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely for the Red Sox. The Tampa Bay Rays looking to sell in a similar situation as the Cubs, where they're teetering around 500, and at this point they're really just looking to blow it up. They're fielding calls for Isaac Paredes, Randy Arozarena, amongst others.
Yandy Diaz.
Yandy Diaz. The Blue Jays have just been terrible. They have been. I mean, you hire a horrific hitting coach, and you stop hitting. That happens. They've ruined Vlad Guerrero Jr. It's really kind of sad to see. Maybe the biggest surprise in baseball, though, has been that the Cleveland Guardians have been a top 5 team for this entire season. They adjusted their approach. They used to be just, we'll hit it into the dirt and then get on base and be silly, fun team. They still get on base, but they're hitting for more power. They're going the other way. They're hitting into the gaps. They're hitting more home runs. And they've turned into a very dangerous team because of it. They're a team that could be buying at the deadline, and they have the number 1 overall pick as one of the best teams in baseball. To add to
J-Ram is
stacked
so
farm.
good.
The one thing holding them back is starting pitching. There's going to be a lot of that available. Speaking of that, available in their division, Garrett Crochet from the White Sox.
And Skubal, potentially Skubal.
Skubal, potentially. I don't know if Skubal gets dealt within the division, but I would,
I think I was going to bring up the Tigers. I think the Tigers should hold on to what they got. I think Detroit just might have a little something in the pot there.
They're 7-3 in their last 10, only 6 out of a wild card spot. Crazier things have happened. The Royals, and the weirdest thing about baseball this year, I think maybe, is the AL Central being the second best division in baseball. You can't say they're the best because the AL East exists, but the Guardians are awesome. The Twins are really good. And the Royals started really hot, struggled a little bit, and now they found their footing again. They have Bobby Witt Jr., one of the biggest superstars in baseball right now. I
think every team but the White Sox is overperforming everyone's expectations. And the White Sox might be the worst team ever.
And they're fun to watch. Meanwhile, in the West, the Seattle Mariners just pulled off one of the more embarrassing collapses we've ever seen. It's actually the quickest loss of a 10-game lead in the division in baseball history, as they are now duking it out with the Houston Astros for first place. The defending World Series champion Texas Rangers, 48-52. They're just bad, and they're looking to sell. They're fielding calls on Nathan Eovaldi.
So are the D-backs, the other World Series.
Yeah.
Have not been good either.
Although the D-backs, they're actually back above 500, and they're getting some guys back from injury. Corbin Carroll has just been awful. But they did get Zach Greinke back from injury. And so maybe they can kind of put it together. The wild card in the National League is such a mess right now. There are every team in the National League except for the Rockies and the Marlins is within 4.5 games of a wild card spot, including the Washington Nationals. So that's really, the next time we come to y'all, there'll be the trade deadline will have happened. So we can really kind of look at, all right, who's going all in to win the World Series this year, who kind of sent themselves back into the cellar. But for the last couple minutes here, what we're going to talk about? NCAA college football 25.
The game.
I was actively playing it before we started this.
Yeah, during the whole episode, actually.
No, we can't say that.
You haven't seen JP's hands yet.
Spencer and Tyler, bless their hearts, they haven't been able to play it. I have been playing it for over a week at this point. It came out last Monday for early access people. And it's special. We're going to have a review coming to it by way of me and JW for high school headquarters, and it's going to be extensive, and I'm very excited for it. Spencer and Tyler,
we might have to start literally an in-person dynasty together.
Oh yeah. Spencer
me and Tyler can't play, but it's all
my apartment and
can,
play it.
Can we each be like different coordinators?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's not bad.
It's special. Once we end this, I'm going to go back to playing it for like 2 more hours. As we're recording this at 1 a.m. Yeah. It's just it's special. So anyway, thank you guys for joining us. Spencer's got an early morning tomorrow. Tyler has work. I have head coaching duties at Ball State University. For SGTV, I'm JP Barry. He's Spencer Ball. He's Tyler Perrone. This has been Ball Don't Lie Offseason Adventures, episode 1 of probably 2. But who knows? So
Probably
anyway,
too.
we
Oh
love
yeah,
you
wait.
guys.
Our next episode is going to be a fall preview. I don't know if we said that, but we're going to
I don't
preview
know if we said that.
We
some
didn't.
you know, especially we're going to get back into the college realm a little bit. We'll keep you updated with baseball, all of that stuff. Maybe even Olympics. It's in France, but we'll keep you posted with everything. It's going to be fun. So yeah, we got a review here, preview there. Hey, we playing.
Hey, we view. Peace
Yep.
out, ladies and gentlemen.